Good day, everyone. I'm Angela, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, HIPAA Privacy Changes under the Trump Administrations. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Paul R. Hills. Paul R. Hills. JD is widely recognized for his ability to explain HIPAA rules clearly in plain language. I would now like to hand over it to the speaker. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks very much. Hi, and welcome to all. So we're going to talk about HIPAA privacy changes under the Trump administration, which, and of course, President-elect Trump takes office on January 23rd of 2024. And in doing that, we're going to take a look behind the curtain at the way that Congress and the executive branch deal with statutes and administrative laws. And of course, HIPAA is both a statute passed by Congress and a set of rules, administrative laws that are administered and enforced by the Office for Civil Rights, which is the office within the Department of Health and Human Services that's charged with that task. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover in this webinar. We are going to do an overview of HIPAA just to explain its legal structure. And then we're going to talk about the current HIPAA Privacy Rule landscape. And of course, this webinar is about HIPAA privacy under the Trump administration. And one of the things that we're going to focus on to illustrate this webinar is reproductive health care privacy. And I'll explain why as we go along. And also, we're going to talk about OCR, that's the Office for Civil Rights that I mentioned earlier, and something called enforcement discretion. Then we're going to talk about what is necessary to actually modify the HIPAA rules, to change the HIPAA rules, and that involves something called the Administrative Procedure Act. I'm going to talk about other enforcers of HIPAA and health information privacy laws. We're going to talk about compliance during this transition. HIPAA overview. Some HIPAA rules carry criminal violations, and in that case, it's the Department of Justice. The HIPAA rules, and there are 4 of them: the privacy rule, the security rule, the breach notification rule, and the enforcement rule. Privacy rule that really is the fundamental rule. The security rule doesn't have what we call substantive law. The privacy rule, as I mentioned earlier, came into effect in 2003. The security rule came into effect in 2005, and it's been unchanged since 2005. The privacy rule has been updated. The breach notification rule is the newest rule. It was established by Congress in 2009 when Congress made the only amendment or modification to the original HIPAA rule. And the enforcement rule sets out the ways in which the Department of Health and Human Services enforces the rule. Let's take a look at the current HIPAA privacy rule landscape. I'm going to talk about reproductive health care privacy. That's the newest modification to the privacy rule. Department of Health and Human Services in June put out some guidance. The modifications were published on April 26th of 2024. They became effective in late June, but they are not mandatory until December 23rd. So let's take a look at how these modifications to reproductive health care privacy actually works. And they work by prohibiting certain uses and disclosures of reproductive health protected health information to protect the privacy and security of individuals. What does seeking, obtaining, providing, or facilitating reproductive health care mean? Or otherwise, taking action or attempting to engage in reproductive health care. A person referring a patient to a provider in another state. Ask that requester to fill out an attestation that affirms that they will not use the information they have requested for a prohibited purpose. What do we know about the Trump administration based on both the campaign and also something called Project 2025? The guidance has become much more specific, and it is now the law. I want to talk about enforcement discretion. And enforcement discretion is something that has been exercised by the Office for Civil Rights. We can expect a notice of enforcement discretion to actually modify the HIPAA privacy rule. They have to follow something called the Administrative Procedure Act. Process is very inclusive. There are other HIPAA enforcers, state attorneys general. Other HIPAA enforcers include private plaintiffs. You must be in compliance with the modifications to the privacy rule that support reproductive health care privacy on December 23rd. You've got to be in compliance with it. That's the law. We have covered, as I said we would, HIPAA overview, the HIPAA privacy rule, including the privacy rule to support reproductive health care privacy, is the law. Thank you for your attention. Wish you well in your HIPAA compliance program, which is becoming more challenging. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela. And I think we're ready to wrap up.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you so much, Paul. And so that concludes all the session for today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Thank you, Paul.